we can get started here, but I want to point out there's a Bible story. Samson, not allowed to cut his hair, cuts his hair, loses his strength, gets captured by the Philistines. And, eventually they gouge out his eyes and they tie him, and he is performing in front of a bunch of Philistines. Well, right after there's a part in the Bible that says they cut his hair, and like it mentions in the Bible that, his hair began to grow again. And what I really like, what I'm seeing right now, Jared, is he cut his beard off like a little while ago, and he looked like a woman. And I'm seeing it's back, and I'm wondering, does that mean his strength is back? Are you going to knock out a whole like building of Philistines with your final blow now that you get your hair back?
I mean, the other day, obviously, there comes a time when you have a beard that it crosses your mind that, you know what, maybe it's time to shave. Maybe it's time to cut this thing off. I'm kind of sick of all the food getting in my mustache and constantly trying to part with it. You gotta apply oil to it. It can be a nuisance once in a while.
Are you an oil man?
Always, man. As soon as it gets to the itchy stage, you start using some oil, and it just helps immensely. But
do you get beard oil itself, or is it?
It's considered beard oil. So I actually got some from Duluth Trading Company, and it is the smell of sawdust.
Nice.
Yep. So
now,
I think it's
in
Joe
that
Gibb-
Bible story, it was because a woman cut Samson's hair. Is this all because of a woman, Jared?
Jezebel.
Total is the Mrs. Land
I'm mixing stories,
down?
But it's more
there
of a
was
Delilah.
no Jezebel interruption.
It's Delilah
with this. No Delilah. Anyway.
But actually, I had that last night, and I trimmed it, but I did not trim my mustache part because I like keeping it long, even though it always gets in the way.
The mustache makes a beard. You can't have a good thick beard without a solid mustache. So I actually, when I cut it, I tried out the goatee for like a couple days. And so just the stash around the lips kind of going down, just that area has gotten a head start of everything else. So
you had a goatee for a while?
Just a hot second. And then I'm
probably good I didn't see it.
Well, it wasn't that profound enough.
It wasn't like a thick, like the mid 90s dad goatee.
No, nothing like no Intimidator type mustache.
Yeah,
the Dale Earnhardt.
Yeah.
But I've farted pretty hard a couple times, and it just kind of grows a little bit more.
I know. I sneeze real hard. Like the Santa Claus movie, Tim Allen, we always say for Jared.
What's up? We are going to thank a few of these sponsors that help make this beautiful show a reality for all of you. So here we go.
First up.
Let's start out with Bivouac.
Bivouac Bow Co. I shoot trad most of the time.
I don't.
Jared doesn't. When I shoot traditional archery, I shoot the Bivouac Backland bow. They're a sponsor of ours. They're great partners, make great bows, and they know a ton about everything.
So a big reason, I would say, to why we're so successful and we have so many bucks on the wall is because we use Huntwise. Huntwise is a GPS mapping app that you can download on any phone, any platform. You can look up public land huntings, ORV trails. You can get the weather. They actually have a HuntCast 2.0 that they teamed up with Jeff Sturgis to make. It's awesome. You need to check this thing out. Go to Huntwise, download the app.
I feel like if you go into the woods without optics, it's like going into the woods without pants on. Would you agree with that?
To a point.
We are huge fans of running binoculars, spotting scopes, and different things when we hunt, even whitetail. I bring binoculars out every time I go. We choose Vortex Optics because they make the best glass in the business. They have an amazing warranty, super clear glass, super helpful people that work there.
Also, if you want to rep some sweet Vortex swag like this warm shirt on a nice fall day, head over to Vortex Wear. Thank you. And use the promo code TFC20 for 20% off your purchase. Saddle game, you need to be in it. If you haven't been in it yet, then you don't know what you're missing.
Yeah.
Trophy Line Tree Sales makes some of the best saddles in the industry. They have 3 different platforms that we use and that are awesome.
I want to make a quick plug for the Wingman with a couple steps. You can take one less stick, and it's like a combination of a stick and a platform. I've been exclusively hunting out of it this year, and my mobile setup is so sweet. I'm very proud of it.
Awesome.
I highly recommend
Awesome.
the Wingman
If you're ready to pull the trigger on that and you want to get with James and do the Wingman, head over to the website and you can save yourself 10% on the purchase. TFC 10 will get you that. I like to think I single-handedly got James to switch to compound again, but I'd probably be a liar and everyone would call me out on that. We shoot prime bows. We think they're awesome. Great accuracy, super shootable.
Made here in Michigan.
Made in Michigan, so we love that. It's hard to complain.
That's where Jared was made. So
Surprisingly,
we like that. Yeah.
You're welcome. So go check out these prime bows.
We are of a firm belief that the arrow is the lifeblood of the archery industry. We've said it 1,000 times. But in all seriousness, we are huge fans of arrows that are durable, that fly well, and that kind of make up for some of my inaccuracies in the way that I shoot. So we shoot Vector custom arrows.
The hammer.
The hammer.
That's Thor.
They are made in Wisconsin by our buddy Isaac. Great arrows. And if you want to go and get yourself some, have a little bit of a discount, use TFC10 for 10% off. Or call Isaac up and tell him we sent you.
Mm-hmm. You want his phone number? Comment below.
Yep, comment below.
Well, I'm glad you're back, Nick. For people who are listening, Nick has been on the show a few times. Go back and figure out who he is. Huntavore. He likes to cook. He's part of Otto Turkey Farm. We like to have him on because basically every time he's on, he tells us new recipes. And so I figured going into the new year, hopefully a lot of our listeners have some venison in their freezer. And a lot of times we found that these people, we get a lot of messages about how you prepare this cut or this cut. And so I figured, well, why not have Nick on? I've done the barbacoa shoulder recipe to death. I did two at once over the break. And so I'm like, you know what, Nick, like, come on, give us some recipes that we should try. So Nick, first of all, before we even get into that, how'd your hunting season turn out? Do you even have any venison to cook?
Oh, yes. I got plenty of venison to play around
Sick
with.
brag, dude.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Easy.
It's a long drawn out story.
Okay.
The goal was 3 in the freezer. I got 3 boys that are growing. The oldest is 7, the youngest is 3, but they can plow through a bunch of venison. And I'm really excited about that because it is like, whether it's, steak pieces that I'm throwing out, whether it's ground, they're going to be mopping that stuff up. It's now their new favorite. So this year's goal was 3. I'm sure next year's going to be 4. It's going to be 5. I'm going to really have to hammer it down. But no, I felt really good. I got the second week of October. I was able to get out and I put a big doe down in the single digit numbers of October days.
Nice.
Felt really good about that.
Yeah, that's big.
Then a couple weeks later, I had a scenario where I nicknamed her Karen. She came by me in the tree and she was with some other deer, but this deer ended up seeing me, blowing. Everybody ran out of there. And so I thought, well, the day's over. And a buck ended up turning them around and they came back and they were then hiding around where I was set up. But that little one turned and kept looking where she had blew it the first time. And I said, sorry, sweetie, you're eating this one.
She gone.
So she went down. She wasn't as big as what I was hoping for. she was quite small. Definitely an eater. But then that same day, my father gave me a call and said, hey, a deer got hit out by the turkey farm. Do you want this? And I was like, perfect. So I got a small deer on the road, a small deer in the woods. We're up to 2 now. And then the third one happened to be another big salvage doe off of Whitneyville. Wonderful rural road to just find a smack doe. And I got to parade that around for half a day until I could get it home and get it cut up. So
I
we
used
got
to live right
in the
off of
freezer.
Whitneyville. That's where my old stomping grounds. Yeah, that's
I
cool.
hope you
So
didn't watch her.
Yeah,
I hope that wasn't one you were watching.
Yeah. You know what? Those are old deer. That's somebody else's thing now. It's somebody else's herd. So you got deer. And you were messaging me a little bit about this, but you've got some fancy new ways of cooking some things. So like you've been experimenting for people who might have been watching or whatever. Like what are some of the things you've been trying this year?
Oh man. So yeah, Santa was very, very generous and got me a sous vide wand, one that you dip into the pot.
Yep.
And actually today was the inaugural run. I was already shooting some stuff over to James, just being like, hey, trying this out, seeing what it's like. Working with that water bath immersion.
Yeah, you'll love that.
I wanted one, but then at the same time,
Oh yeah,
I wanted one, but it
Ow.
can't be a what do I want to say, like a one-trick pony.
Right.
Like as a hunter, you start to like, I know how to cook a steak. I know how to do techniques that I don't need a wand. Is it just a steak cooker? And after several years of not just watching outdoorsmen, but then going back into the normal foodie world and seeing several different things that you can use this for, one of which I'm really excited for is going to be actually doing some like duck legs, or I've got a couple pheasants that are cut up in the freezer still that were gifts, but to do like pheasant legs, something that's really hard worked, not go necessarily the barbacoa route, but go with a confit, where you're really salting those up and you add a little bit of that fresh herbs into that. And then you can shred that onto whatever you're looking for, basically making something that you would leave in the field or you wouldn't even mess with into something that's like absolutely a knockout.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the real ticket there with the water immersion is, as much as you want to be able to cook your steak in whatever flavors that you throw in that bag, there's a lot of other things that you can do with that, whether it is desserts, making tiny little custards, or whether it is, for my waterfowler friends, being able to take the parts that you don't use and make those into something delicious.
Yeah, I love the sous vide. I got one a while back, and what I found it was really handy for was bear, because I'm always worried about undercooking bear.
Yeah.
Probably overly worried, and so I'm always real careful. And it's not a nice way to not overcook and dry out like a meat, like a bear or like pork. I would imagine you could do something probably pretty interesting with it. And keep it moist and tender.
To go off of that, Jim, cooking temperatures. I think the USDA actually just dropped the internal temperature requirement for pork from 165, I think, like to 160.
Oh, baby, you'd love to hear it.
Correct.
Yeah, so you can actually cook it less than that. Have a
what
little
changed?
More be safe about
it. What changed? Did meat get different in the last?
I don't know.
I would say it'd be control. Because I read that same article, and the aspect is there's such a control on the product that farmers have that they've essentially grown that out of the animal. That tuberculosis, you don't have this wild entry coming in at any point of the food system. Plus, they're not in the out wide open. Now, I'm sure if you had hogs that were raised open pasture, there's going to be something different, but something that's raised inside of one of those large grow out barns, you're not going to be worried about tuberculosis working its way, or excuse me, whatever it is, nasty stuff getting into there. I mean, you still have, there you go, trichinosis. You still have your normal salmonella, and you still have your stuff that's going to make you sick, but at the same time, that one at least is gone.
I get meat from a lot of times from Crane Dance Farm. They're south of here or whatever. I was picking up, I did some kind of pork order, picking it up from them. Because most, I posted this online, but like most of the meat we eat is either from them. I'll eat some turkeys from you guys, or what I kill. Other than that, like basically the meat I eat is in like a 15-mile radius for the most part, unless I'm hunting somewhere else. But I was there, and a woman standing next to me, she's like talking it's at the farmer's market. And she tells me that she eats the pork regularly raw from Crane Dance because she says it's organic or something.
Whoa.
And for some reason, and I wasn't following, except for I was so thrown off. And she's like, she eats just raw pork. Because like neither of you could tell me that you've never legitimately looked at a piece of bacon and thought raw bacon and thought, I could eat that.
Throw that in there and gobble it down.
It always looks so. Whenever I see it, I'm like, I could try that right now.
No,
bacon is smoked and cured, so it's not raw.
Yeah,
it's already been smoked. You could eat that raw, or excuse me, it's not raw anymore. You could eat that in its non-fried state.
Right.
Correct.
It's
You would
cured.
be totally good with that. That woman at that farmer's market has a gut of iron
Okay.
because it don't matter if it's organic, whatever.
That's what I thought. I'm like, that is
whatever,
weird.
yeah, organism that you get in you, it organic or not, it's gonna tear you a new one.
That or a
And-
giant bag of weed, and she's just super hungry.
Hey, man. Whatever.
the
we could eat-
munchies.
I just think of the old Family Guy. It's like Bill Clinton and Peter are in the back of a limo, and they look out and they see a pig, and Bill's like, "Hey, man, we could eat that pig. That pig could be in our belly." And they try to catch the pig. So, anyways, got us off topic, but you're saying sous vide. You go back to sous vide. All I was trying to say is I found that it's a nice way to get a good reverse. You could do a cool reverse sear, like a simple reverse sear, or you could do some of the, breaking down the confit. Is it, how do you say that again? I always try to avoid saying it out loud.
Yeah, confit. It's
Confit.
spelled
Oui.
confit.
Yeah.
So that's, us Americans have a problem with it. But anyway, basically, it's
Sounds like
What do I
cone
wanna say?
freedom.
yeah, exactly. Comb freedom. It's basically cooking in its own fat. If you were to use like a goose or a duck in that point, but there's going to be other critters that you can use in that you're going to have to supplement either with animal fat or even olive oil. I did the poor man's confit in a crock pot where I essentially used a whole ton of olive oil and then put squirrels in there and was able then to have squirrel confit and shred those up. But at the same time, now I'm left with a whole crock pot full of olive oil.
Mm.
Doing it in the sous vide where I have a bag, I totally reduced the amount of oil that I'm either wasting or having to now try to find a way to use.
Yeah.
At that point, it was flavored olive oil. We used it to cook, but at the same time, like to add it as a salad dressing, it just didn't do the same. But with the added bit of sous vide, you can do that in an economical way. So you're not
Yeah.
using gallons and gallons of olive oil. You can do that right in the bag. And
Are
so
you
that makes it
telling
a new way to do things.
You're taking oil that you've cooked squirrel in, and then you're thinking about making dressing out of it, right?
Yeah, squirrel
Like,
infused oil.
no,
man.
You could. I'm saying don't do that. You
just
could
don't use it.
I use it in the cooking where I would throw it in a pan,
Yeah.
heating it up to whatever I'm using. Say it be more squirrel, like the shredded squirrel that I've used. I'm
Yeah.
able to then sear that in that oil.
Mm.
Or, if I'm doing a chicken breast or whatever, or a turkey breast, and I just need a little olive oil, I have it in the fridge in a bottle where it's like flavored olive oil. It's code word for squirrel oil. So
Yeah. See,
Spoil.
I say it because
Spoil.
I got the business from my wife and my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law because I had
the
made some
biz, dude?
squirrel. What's that?
You got the biz?
I got the biz. Yeah.
That
I-
sucks.
I made some squirrel, right? And I'm so glad you said you eat like how you made the squirrel, because I am a huge proponent of people going out there and eat.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we lost him.
He had a good point too.
I would.
It was gonna be good. I had a feeling.
I know something about how he got the business. I'm guessing he got shit for eating. He didn't get the shits, but I think he got shit for eating the leftover oil, which I get to a point. But I want to know about this while we got we're offline for a second. The confit, are you just talking about heating up this oil and then just cooking the meat in it?
Yeah. So
Okay.
a traditional confit would be you render out the duck fat of a duck breast,
Yeah.
and then you would take the legs and essentially poach them in the oil. It's just like a slow cooker, but you're using basically the fat of the same animal to do this.
Okay.
This is where
yeah.
it originates from. At that point, they would then take those now par cooked or slow cooked braised pieces of meat and stick those into a jar, ladle in the oil over the top, and basically it just preserves it for a super long period of time. That was basically their way of preserving without having a chance to not have it spoil. So that's how
Do
they
you-
would hold this.
So they wouldn't have to use any kind of canning method. They would just self-preserve itself in the, I guess, the solidified fat.
Yeah, they would somehow cap it. I don't know if they had a pressure, or if it was like seriously sealed cans, or if they just had like, because I've seen it too, where people will melt basically a saturated fat, be it a tallow, be it butter, whatever it is, melt that, pour that on the top of whatever they're doing, and when it solidifies, it creates a seal. So
Oh,
now
wow.
you have to dig through either the tallow, or you have to dig through the fat or the butter in order to get to whatever it is. This is all old school style anyway. I forgot where I was going with this. Oh,
Sealing, yeah.
but
Canning.
cooking it in the oil, it's kind of cool because it's from the same animal, but at the same time, it offers a new, very velvety, very smooth shred to that because it's all in an oil. It's very rich. It's very, very silky. And then at that point, you could throw it onto whatever you want. Probably what really got me on to even thinking about confit was there's a brewery in Grand Rapids called Brewery Vivant.
Oh, yeah.
They do a duck
Very familiar with
confit.
that.
Yes, duck confit nachos. And the first time that I had them, I was like, I got to figure out what this confit is, because I didn't know at that point. But it got me digging into it. So yeah, here it is. Some brewery has some sweet new idea, and now that's kind of the only way that I really like to use Squirrel. I mean, the double fried, or even the parboil and the fry them, that's great, and that's fun to do with some of the kids. But not everybody's going to want a fried piece of Squirrel,
Right.
whereas the shredded can get used in a whole ton of ways. I mean, you name it, whether we go the old traditional taco or the enchiladas or whatever you want to do. If you've got a whole mess of squirrels, I did one where I took that shredded squirrel and put it actually inside of a yeast dough and made what I called bushy tail buns. And they were just little bite-sized little rolls that I could just, once you bite into them, I had a little piece of cheese, some onion, and some squirrel in there. And it was a great little appetizer. Those got cleaned up really quick after, we had a sporting event thing going on at our house, and it was like, hey, throw those out there. And man, people gobbled them up without even thinking about what they were.
That's the crazy thing. Like, you can, that's what's been, I guess, one of my biggest pushes, is trying to get people to try wild game. And it's just, I don't know why it's so hard for people who have never, hunted before, or even thought about hunting, or even thought about the fact of eating a wild, non-domesticated animal. It's just trying to introduce them to something without having them think about it, and then wig themselves out thinking, oh my gosh, I'm eating a bear. But the second you actually serve it to them in a way that they've seen before with domestic animals. So for instance, last year I made up, it was practically smoked bear meatballs, right? Mix it with some breadcrumbs, some herbs in there. And then you just kind of baste it with and brush it while it's smoking with, I did like a sweeter barbecue sauce, something that they're used to, like a honey barbecue. And believe it or not, those things were gone before almost any of the other appetizers, just because I don't know if it's the fact that they said, oh, I want to try something new, or if they actually really liked it. But man, getting over that hump, some people were very, very reluctant to trying it. They're like, oh, that's bear. And they got in their head and they didn't want to try it. And
right.
I mean, there's even times where I even think about that. It's like, holy cow, I don't know if, I'll try it. You just got to like get over the fact that you're trying something different. It's not going to taste the same way that you've experienced before. Like, even like you had mentioned, you have a few pheasants in your freezer. To someone who has never tried pheasant before, they're never going to really know the difference unless you tell them, right? So
Exactly.
I had my brother-in-law and sister-in-law over, I think it was last fall. And I had the same scenario. I had a few pheasants in the freezer. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to cook these up. And I think we did like an Alfredo, and substituted the chicken for the pheasant breasts. And all of a sudden, all the brother and sister-in-law show up, and they're like, oh, you guys want to eat? And they're like, yeah, sure. So they sat down, like, what are you guys having? We're having chicken Alfredo, and we didn't really tell them. And they demolished the meal. I had no idea until, like before they had like 3 or 4 bites left. I'm like, look, I don't really like surprising people with saying, hey, this is what you're eating, but hey, you're eating pheasant right now. And they both kind of stopped, kind of looked at each other a second. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, that's a pheasant. They kind of looked at it, kind of poked around, then they started eating it again. And it's kind of fun to watch like people's experiences and reactions to that. But there was one particular recipe that you were trying here just recently, Nick, and it's something that I have yet to had the clutches to stomach, I guess, so to speak. And it was what were they, liver ravioli?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I want you to touch on this, because I just had seen a few videos of you making this, at least piping them into the trays at least. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Last time I had beef liver, I was sick, and I don't think I'd ever touch it again. But you have found a way to utilize venison liver in a way that's not just liver and onions in a cast iron with ketchup all over it.
I don't. I got back into, so I early in the season I said I'm keeping a liver and I'm gonna figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I've kept liver in the past off of a deer, and I've done the traditional liver and onions. It's something that I didn't have a lot of experience in, and so I was like, I'm not scared of it. I don't like going on roller coasters. That's not exciting to me.
I don't either.
That's an instant throw up. I don't do well in those those environments.
I don't like scary movies. I don't want to intentionally go see something.
You guys are pansies. Hey, I'm back, by the way.
There he is. There you go.
Welcome back.
I'm in a condo, and all the internet and this whole building went out.
Oh no.
So I was even trying to get on my neighbor's Wi-Fi. Couldn't do that. So I'm on the phone, but I'm back, and I'm sorry about that.
You're good.
And I have no idea what I was saying, but I'm now very excited about liver, because I just found a whole bag of chicken livers in my freezer.
Good.
So yeah, carry on.
So I like, food is what gets me exciting. So eating something new, eating something that people have either hyped up as terrible, eating something that people have hyped up as amazing, like that's what I'm excited for. I'm in for the experience. Whether it's me like not going to take it or it's just not going to be palatable, I can go through that. That's one thing I can handle, I guess. But I wanted to figure out liver. I'm like, there's got to be a way. And so I did the liver and onions, and I wasn't off put by it, but I could definitely say like, man, I could only eat like one or two of these. Yep. And I'm good. I'm good. It's rich. It's unmistakable, the flavor of it.
Yes.
I did have a couple of the ends get very irony and mealy, gritty, as people would describe that. So I experienced that. I know what burnt liver or what overcooked liver does taste like. And I'm like, there's got to be a preparation. And I'm not the first one to want to try this out, because again, I go back to the old world side of cooking, head back over to Europe. They had some good ideas, and we want to be able to highlight some of those things. And two of those things, I was really excited to talk to both of you guys, because I have a liver recipe for not just you, Jared, but I have one for James as well. James can handle this.
Yeah, baby, you love to hear it.
Do we each get our own? Like
you each get your own.
Oh, yes.
So I am going to start with James, because the idea of going with a Cajun sausage. You like sausage there,
yes,
James.
he does.
Easy, Jared, easy.
And we're going to stay outside the casing actually on this one. And I'm going to actually have you go into the deep fryer first.
Mm-hmm.
You can do this in the air fryer. And I know you have one of those, James. I imagine you have an air fryer. And this is a perfect item to be able to put into that. And what I'm basically having to do is make a boudin ball. And boudin is an easy Cajun sausage. It is probably about 3/4 its weight in a hard-worked muscle, usually pork shoulder. Mm-hmm. Then the quarter of it is livers, whether it's chicken, whether it's pork. There is equal parts of meat to cooked rice. Then you get your trinity. Your trinity is going to be celery, it's going to be onion, and it's going to be bell pepper.
Oh,
I
I thought
traded this out.
I was
Oh,
gonna
you
say
thought you were going to go carrot?
I thought you were going Mirepoix.
That's French.
Mhm.
The Cajuns created the Trinity. This is their off-put, man. You get down into Louisiana, and they, as much as they hold on to their roots in France, they're their own separate thing. And so they actually go with the bell pepper. I traded this out again, and I went with poblano, and I went with jalapeno. So I did 2 jalapenos, 1 poblano. All of this gets chopped up and mixed in together with black pepper, salt, cayenne, just a little bit. What was my other one? Oh, heavy amount of garlic. I think it called for 6 cloves minced. Heavy amount of garlic.
Baby.
And I think just a touch of coriander. All this gets mixed up and let it sit overnight in your fridge. So, James, once you got this all put together, just put it in your fridge and just let it sit overnight. Come back the next day, then it's going to sit on your stove for probably an hour to a half, 2 hours. You got to boil all of this. So you're going to boil it, and it's not going to look very appetizing. Both the recipes I'm talking about, it does not look good until it gets to the final. So you got to stick with it. You're going to get that so you can fork tender all of the pieces of meat. So when you stab a piece of meat, your fork goes into it, you're set.
Yeah.
You can either, you have to drain out all the liquid. Don't lose that liquid. Keep it all. So now you've got all your pieces drained. You can either chop it on a board so it gets into this real pasty-like consistency, or run it through your grinder. Both ways work. I am currently waiting on a grinder, so all I had was my cleaver. Took a little extra arm effort, took a little extra time, but it works. Now I mix that chopped with equal parts cooked rice. So while I was boiling, I was making the rice. Mix this all together now.
Is it white rice?
You can use white. I used brown rice because that's what I had.
Okay. All right.
Now I'm going to ladle in the liquid, and I'm going to put like 3 or 4 ladles into this thing, and I want it to start to get really sticky. And by ladling in that liquid back in, it starts to work with the rice. It starts to work with the chopped pieces of meat, and it's going to get this kind of pasty, but it's going to be loose. Let that cool off completely. And then you can then form it into balls. It's almost like a loose cookie dough at this point.
I was going to say, what's the consistency you're aiming for?
It's going to be a loose cookie dough or very much meatballish at this point.
Yeah, that's what I had in mind, like a meatball.
Yes. And so I actually used a melon baller just to keep myself consistent. And I would pull one of those out. I'd have to work it with my hand. It does take a little work to get those to come together. And then I put those on a cookie sheet and immediately threw them all in the freezer. So as soon as I filled that cookie sheet with 24 of them, threw that in the freezer, and I let them freeze all the way through. As soon as I pulled them back out, now frozen, I tried to take one step out of like preparation once I got to actually wanting to make them for people that are present. And then I just basically, put the frozen balls into a Ziploc bag, portioned about how many I wanted. I found that 10 feeds like 4 adults really good. 10 or 12 feeds 4 adults is like a great little appetizer. Threw in maybe 2 tablespoons of flour, zipped it up, shook them up. Does 2 things: keeps them from sticking to each other once they go back in the freezer.
Sure.
And it's going to help for when you go to your egg and then to your panko. You're going to want to use panko on this just because it gets a really good outer shell to what you're trying to do. I pulled them out, and there wasn't even a lapse of time between having the fryer going. I actually pulled the still frozen on the inside ball into the egg, into the panko, and into the fryer. And I got heat all the way through. It heated itself all the way back through so that it was still like piping hot in the middle as it was on the outside. But I tell you, with a little Chick-fil-A dipping sauce, that's been the perfect pairing that I've got. You got the heat, you got the sweet mixing together, and it is not a very difficult thing. It just takes 2 days. The hardest thing is waiting, I would say. Once you get to step 1, you're like, I want to do step 2. You got to do step 2 tomorrow. So that's the only downside to making boudin. But I tell you, that is one that is going to be a mainstay in my freezer just because, number one, it uses shoulder, which I really enjoy the shoulder meat.
Mhm.
And two, it uses liver, which is something that I've wanted to incorporate more of and use more of, leave less out in the field. And I
Yeah.
guess the third one too is it's a crowd pleaser. It's
Yeah.
you get the boudin, you get the spice of it, and the side note, the accompanying orchestra is the liver. It's not the main show, and I think that's a
Yeah.
great spot for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I can agree with that. When liver is like the main, at least for me, the main show, the main attraction, it's rich and it's much. And like one time my brother-in-law and I think I might have told this before, like I tried to make a bunch of liver and I was good. Like I put it in lemon juice rather than milk to get some of that soak it and stuff. And I ate like a lot of it. You eat a lot of liver, your farts are gonna smell straight up liver when you do it again. I don't know how you know who Liver King is. You know that guy?
I've not heard of
I'm
Liver
sh-
King.
Liver King. People on, I'm sure people listening have some of them have heard. It's this dude who's just clearly on anabolic steroids, but he also eats raw liver and raw, and he pops it. I mean, his thing is the liver all the time. He's the Liver King. So I don't want to go there. So it's nice to have like that backup, that background orchestra of liver behind something else. So no, that's a good. You know what? I'm glad you picked that for me. That's very appropriate.
And I mean, to even start out too, so your first batch is with the chicken livers you were talking about in your freezer
Yeah.
already. You know, that's a great way to use those. It's going to be mild. And then next year, when you harvest your next animal, then it's like, all right, I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna use this whitetail liver. I'm gonna use this bear liver. I'm gonna try it
Yeah.
out. Don't be scared, because especially in this recipe, a little does go a long ways. And the recipe that I made, or at least the amount that I made, I essentially used 6 ounces of liver. And so it was like maybe one of the lobes off of a whitetail. That was
Mhm.
probably the portion size on that. So
It's not bad.
no. And it's a great
No.
way to start out. It's a great way to start using it, getting used to it. And then you can step into recipe 2. And this is the one I picked for Jared because
For the
it's
alpha?
gonna take a little extra pizzazz on this one. It takes a
Ooh.
fine hand. Ultimately, no, not jazz hands, not jazz
Hey!
hands. It's essentially 2 very easy things that can be super intimidating. You just got to show confidence in what you're doing. The first is making a pate, or excuse me, not a pate, a mousse, also called pate sometimes. But the mousse in itself, the liver mousse, is going to be very forward with liver, but at the same time, the other notes along with it are super pungent as well. You're making something, we're basically working with a flavor bomb. This thing is going to explode, and it could hurt somebody in large amounts. So the way we serve this is in small amounts.
Very good.
And that's where going with a ravioli is like a perfect little like pop in the mouth. It's super rich in the fact that when I made the filling, this mousse, it is 14 ounces of liver. It is almost a full pound of liver. So I knew I was already working with something serious. It is a whole onion or a shallot, 2 shallots if you wanted to go that route.
White onion,
It's-
red onion,
I would stick with the white or a yellow. I wouldn't go with a red.
Vidalia.
Red's spicier, right? Right.
I'm thinking more or less on the end note of this. You don't want pink to come up out of the hue of what you're making, because I don't think you need any more purple added to what you end up with your final result. So if we could stick with a neutral, that might help you out. But I used a white, and I really had a good use out of that.
Okay.
What else was in there?
You're making the mousse.
I'm making the mousse. I'm quick going back to my notes here / my pictures here where I was making. And in fact, like when I put this mousse together, it took maybe half the time that I thought it was going to be. it was saying like it'll take 20 minutes, but bank on an hour of you messing with this thing.
Wow.
And I just went in with confidence, and yeah, by like 15 minutes, I was like, boom, we're done. We're on our way. Oh, yes, the two elements that I did forget in that. So I talked about the 14 ounces of liver, the whole onion. It does ask for a little bit of smoked, either ham hock or bacon or pancetta or whatever you got. I had 2 pieces of bacon that were there. So those I had in, and then it does call for a ton of butter. This is very heavy on both the heavy cream. I shouldn't say necessarily heavy on the heavy cream, but heavy on the butter. I think it used 7 tablespoons. So I actually took a stick of butter
Full stick.
and I went 1 line cut, and I used the big hunk of that.
Jared puts the butt in butter. Boom.
Butter. Hardly knew her.
You dude.
So putting this, melt out the butter, and then you just start throwing things in, at least as far as the veg goes. You go with your onion. I threw in the bacon on this point. Then I incorporated the liver, not necessarily going for a sear, but just wanting to kind of poach it in that liquid and just get it not cooked all the way through, but just to the point where the outside was nice and cooked and the inside was still pink.
Okay.
To deglaze the whole pan, I left everything in there and just was moving it around with a spatula, and I added brandy into it, a good amount of brandy. You want to go with a cognac, or, I mean, here in Michigan, we have the Christian Brothers brandy. It's super cheap stuff. I would say super cheap on this just because you're going for the flavor of it. You're not necessarily going for the alcohol of it because you cook that off as it's sitting there. I mean, a splash does go down the hatch because we're cooking, and that's what you do.
And drinking.
And then add a splat. Well, it's probably a 1/4 cup of heavy cream. And so now I've got this concoction in my pan. And if you end up seeing it on my stories, I think they're now gone. I think I got to publish them again. But it just, it looked like a mess. And I'm just like, I'm trusting the process on this because this doesn't look good. You go to your blender, and everything goes from the pan into the blender. Put it on low, put it on medium, put it on high. You can't over blitz this thing. You're emulsifying it. You want to whip the cream. You want to incorporate the butter into every bit of that so it's not identifiable. And it literally looks like a Frosty. You know that it's not a Frosty, but it looks like a Frosty at this point.
Don't dip your fries in there.
No. But I pulled that top off, and yeah, I'm not hit with Frosty waves, but I'm hit with like the hit of the onion, the tang of the onion. I can smell the liver, but I get the sweet from the brandy, and I'm already kind of getting that butter creamy smell from it. And I'm like, you know what? This might have some potential here. You do have to throw it through a strainer. So you got a fine mesh strainer. You end up pouring it at that, use a ladle to push it through, and it is now smooth.
What does it leave behind? What are like the goobers? What is it? Just chunks of liver?
Stuff that, like either some of the veins that were in your liver that you missed out on, a little bit of like the membranes that are in there. Sometimes you'll end up, if you didn't mince your garlic enough, or mince your onions enough, you might get some of the skins from that. I didn't have a lot come out. There was some left in there, so I scooped threw that out. But everything that fell through that, it was just smooth. And being the risk taker that I am, take a spoon of that, and I was like, all right, what am I getting? And I was just presented with a whole host of wonderful flavors from that. Now, it was dang rich. You only need 1 spoonful at a time. And I say that as in just be ready to have it have stand up front, a lot of flavors, but at the same time, don't be off put because you're going to enjoy what that is. It's just going to be super rich.
What for someone who is not used to having a lot of liver, right? It can be, how a nice way to put it. It can be a smack in the face, right? Like if you're not used to it. I guess on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being like, oh yeah, I don't really taste a whole lot, and 10 being a slap in the face, where would this hit on that scale if I were to feed it to, say to my family?
Gotcha. You and your wife will love it.
Okay.
Your oldest, probably the most particular of kids. I'm translating into mine as well.
Sure.
My oldest is so particular, he's not going to touch it.
Because of
My
the consistency and the color, or maybe the taste?
I'm thinking consistency and color.
Okay.
My middle boy, he'll eat it because it'll be fun. It'll be exciting. It's something new. He's going to eat it, and he's going to be like, ew, and then he's going to lick it, and then he's going to laugh because he's going to be like, wow, there's a lot of flavor here. But he won't mind it. And then we have the youngest, and he'll be like, yeah, I just don't eat that. It's not Tostino's pizza rolls. It's not a Schwann's pizza. It's not mac and cheese. I don't eat stuff like that.
Okay. So would you say James's recipe or my recipe would be more of or did you already say that? The more introductory into liver?
Yeah, introductory goes to the boudin balls and James, and I gave you the recipe that was going to be, this is heavy forward.
Step up.
Yes.
Wow.
Heavy forward.
Culinary expert around here. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I did go to culinary school. First.
But then I go into just like we were talking a little bit there, Jared, on presentation.
Yeah.
And the little ravioli is so inconspicuous. It's noodle, and then you know that there's something in there. It could be cheese, it could be burger, it could be whatever you want in there. It could be, it just works its way into ravioli.
Yeah.
And once you get good at making your own pasta, I outsource that to my brother-in-law. He is very hoity-toity when it comes to Italian stuff. So I let him take the charge on making the actual sheets of dough for me.
Nice.
It was actually super easy. He used a stand mixer, threw in some 00 flour, which is like the really fine stuff.
Yep. And then
threw an egg, threw an oil, little water, turned that sucker on, let it all come together, and boom, there it was. He's probably got more to it, but that's exactly what I saw from him. Through the sheeter, he just kept putting it through, and if it was a little dry, he splashed a little water on it, and if it was a little wet, he threw on some flour. But essentially, he would then get the sheet out, and we did cheat. I mean, we're a couple of hacks here in Michigan trying to impress some 90-year-old grandma from Italy. She's probably rolling over in her grave right now. But we had this little ravioli press, and actually, I looked one up. It's like $30 on Amazon. Wow. So if you were into trying this out, you get one of these presses, you throw your sheet on top of it, and it's got a little depression maker that makes your little wells. And then I took a Ziploc bag, piped or nipped off.
I watched this.
Yep. Yeah. And I stuffed in the puree. I stuffed in the mousse and just piped that into the wells. And I found the fuller that I made the wells, the better the ravioli came together. So really don't be shy when you're filling those up. I put the second sheet on. You run basically a rolling pin over in it just to press. It cuts out all your little shapes on there, and you end up with these made raviolis.
That's really cool.
I would say a minute to a half, maybe 2. Boiling water. We dropped a couple of those in and pop those down. And I tell you, like, I haven't had. I'm outside of Chef Boyardee raviolis. That was my first introduction. I haven't gone any place and ordered specifically raviolis.
Right.
But the few that I have had kind of don't touch what we just experienced.
Yeah.
Even in just this little ravioli. It was just one bite of that intense liver, because it's liver forward, but then you get the sweetness of that brandy, you get the onion that's incorporating into it, so it's not just liver on its own, and it was real smooth and creamy. And so I'm asking my brother-in-law, I'm like, so what sauce goes along with this? Do I go with
just gonna ask that.
Is this a cream sauce? Is this what do I want to go? I don't want to go with a marinara. And he's like, honestly, whatever you throw on this, it's going to take front stage. You can't outpower what you've just made. It is so upfront.
Sure.
But he said, to be subtle on the edge. He said I would do like a brown butter sage and mix that all together. I did say, I'm like, I'm really kind of focusing on this like cream and mushroom. He goes, cream and mushroom would be awesome.
I was just gonna say mushroom sounds pretty complimentary.
So now here's the thing. You guys can keep a secret, right?
Yeah. No one listening, tell anybody.
Listeners, just don't talk about this.
Yeah.
I am so excited to reveal to the world a cream and morel sauce served with venison liver mousse raviolis.
Wow.
This is what we're going for. But I got to wait till May. Here
Yeah,
we
you
are in
do.
the middle of winter. We got to wait till May.
We got some work to do. Yeah.
So
you
listeners,
you've obviously have a hot spot for morels then.
well, here's the thing,
You think we can
listeners.
keep some more secrets?
Yeah. That's
If
a
you could
smaller
send your
secret.
GPS coordinates to huntavore@gmail.com, I would be so entirely indebted to you.
That'd be super cool of you. Yeah.
For a PM. Go to our Instagram PM.
There you go. Yeah. Slide into those DMs right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, now I got to find somebody who's got a hot spot. Either is going to show me or, I mug them and then find out where they've been. But anyway, get the hot spot for morels. And I think just a whole bunch of morels mixed in with just a light cream sauce with these raviolis. I tell you, knockout. It's going to be a knockout.
Jared and I have a secret spot. We got a boatload of morels last year. Remember that?
Did, dude.
Remember that
was
find?
The hot spot.
The hot spot. We got like bags and
Like
bags. of these.
and like just filling up my hat.
Yeah, we're like, what do we? There's so many of. They're everywhere.
Mhm.
And if we would have eaten those, we would have been sad
Probably sick as a dog.
pandas. They were not morels. We're like,
Nah.
I'm like looking the whole time. I'm like, it doesn't look like a morel like that I've found before, but it kind of looks like morel. It's got to be it. It was. They were false. Were they actually false morels?
They were false.
Yeah.
They were. There's certain characteristics of a morel that you can identify. So if you cut it in half a long way, what was it? You have there. It should be hollow.
It's hollow in the
front.
stem.
Yes, it's hollow. It's not filled up.
Yeah.
At least that's what I've been heard. And I've also it's connected at the top,
Yes.
not connected at the bottom.
Yes, exactly. Not at the base of the head of the mushroom. From what I could tell, we could have eaten those. And some guys say that it's fine, which is never a guy on the internet that says it's fine is like, nah, I'm just, you know what? I think of it as I spread spores. Yeah. Yeah. We spread the spores for somebody else to have way more, like somebody else is gonna be tricked. But like we'll have in my hunting pack, like these little like handbag things that are just like stretchy materials that I'll throw. I mean, we're filling those up. We're filling our, like you said, our hats. We were just like, we are geniuses. How do we do this?
Although I would say, I will say we were kids in candy shop, but James was a blind kid. He could not find a mushroom to save his life.
Yeah, no,
I'm serious.
Or you're
like,
just uniquely gifted.
I'm not dogging on you. Like I would let him walk. I'm like, James, go find a mushroom. And he'd be walking along this 2-track because that's where we found him. It's like in this old logging road.
Which is where you would find a morel.
Yep. I let him walk for a good while, and he walked past like 5 or 6.
Yeah,
I'm like,
little guys.
Did you find one? It's like, no, man, I don't see any of them.
Yeah.
Like, turn around, and then I'd let him look for a second. I'm like, then I'd point at it, and he still couldn't find it. And he finally had to go and actually pick it. I'm like, dude, it's right here.
Here's the thing, though.
It is 2020. It's not what you know, it's who you know. So, James, I think you're on the right track here. It's all about relationships.
I bring Jared around, and he does that.
Exactly.
Maybe that was his end game. You're like, I'm just gonna act like I can't see it.
That's Jared work. I like to think.
I feel like you do that a lot.
Yeah. I'll say this though. You always dog on me. We go turkey hunting, and I'm always looking for deer. Maybe I was just looking for turkey, dude. I was in turkey mode.
Yeah. You're right, man.
Every time we go turkey hunting, I'm like, dude, there's some deer coming. Don't move. He's like, what do you care? There's deer 200 deer. What do you even care about that? Like we're hunting turkeys right now. So all that being said is, we're gonna be looking forward, Nick, to seeing that like completed recipe, because we're gonna need photos. We're gonna need a recipe posted. I want you got to share this with the world because it sounds fantastic.
Right. If there's anything worse than me doing dishes, though, it's me being a writer. So it's part of 2020 is, you know what, we got these resolutions, and if you put action steps, they become goals.
Yeah.
I'm trying to transition this write things down from a resolution into goals because I've got just a couple things over at Sportsman's Nation, but man, I need to start plugging away at some more stuff.
You definitely do, because you got good recipes. But is that so? That's a resolution for you. Write more. Would you say that's official? Lock it in.
Oh man, now people are hearing it. Yeah. Lock
It's
it
the
in.
best. I was reading about this today on some LinkedIn article. Like, if you're going to keep your resolution, one of the secrets is to tell other people. So, Jared,
Here we are.
Now we got Nick's. Jared, what's your resolution? You got a resolution there, buddy?
Be a better hunter than Jim.
Well, that's not going to happen.
It's already happened.
I mean, body count alone.
I was going to say, what happened last year? Or
What did happen? What happened this season, Jared?
Well, I mean, I shot a turkey in the spring.
Okay.
Shot a deer this winter.
Late winter.
You know what? Buzzer beater.
Buzzer beater. Hey, you know what? As long as you get it done.
Got her done.
I didn't shoot a turkey this year, although I did the recurve, and we got a lot of turkeys in. It was not for lack of opportunities.
No, but that's here nor there. I would say we're tied on the season. No, my real resolution.
Tied on the season?
My real resolution, sir.
Okay.
Man, last year, actually, this whole past hunting season was to be more observant.
Oh.
Which I feel like I was, which I can probably go into later. May or may not be writing something on that.
Ooh.
But me,
I'm titillated.
Twitter pated. Man. Try new recipes.
Okay, all right, fair.
Try new recipes.
Yeah, all right, that's fair.
Well, you got two right there that include liver.
I am well on my way to my resolution and goals.
Yeah, must be nice. Pick a real easy one.
Hey, next time you go first.
For resolutions, mine's to become 6 foot tall. It's been my resolution every year.
By eating liver.
Yeah, Liver King. I'll be the new Liver King. No, my
ramps.
I do have a resolution. I would like to trap a beaver.
Oh, nice.
I've been trying and I have not done it yet. So I got my traps all pulled in. I got to find a new spot. But I haven't. That's what I really want to get, a beaver. I want to eat it.
That was.
I want to do a roast.
I thought that was your nickname in high school. Beaver Trap.
Beaver King.
Beaver.
Yeah, totally different. Yeah.
Yeah. That was before the Netflix special.
That's right. Yeah.
Went there.
Yeah. No, I think that's my resolution. Did you trap a beaver? I shot a coyote. That was new. That was new this year. Like I like to do new things. So beaver is on there. It's like something to do in the winter.
Did you pelt out the coyote?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it was a big one. I was deer hunting, and I see one what looked like a big one come in, and I'm like, oh, cool. But I'm like, I got this 300 Win Mag, and I had shot a deer with it earlier, and I didn't put my earplugs in. And dude, my ears are literally, as we're recording this right now, this is a month ago, still ring. Like it's tinnitus.
Oh man.
So
tinnitus. It's tinnitus.
Oh, that's right. Someone, it was tinnitus. That's right. You told me that. Tinnitus.
Common misconception, but you know.
So anyway, this coyote comes in. I'm like, I could not. I had one of those little, like, those ones that go behind your head that are like, you see a guy with a chainsaw he's wearing. But I had him underneath my gator, and I got like a bandana I always have for blowing snot, and I couldn't get it out in time because if anybody's seen coyotes or hunting them, they're moving like a lot. So he comes in and he comes to the edge of the swamp, and I swear he smelled the Fitzgerald
deer dander,
because he came in downwind and he just came running right to my tree. Then he stopped when he got 30 yards away and took off. I was probably 40 feet up in this pine tree I just climbed up in. So I'm like, shoot, well, I get my earplugs ready. I'm like, in case another one comes. And sure enough, like 30 seconds later, another one who, when it came in from above, looked almost totally black. I'm like, sweet, blasted them. And it was, 60 some pounds. It was big. It was a nice
dog.
fluffy dog. And so I got a spot next to my fireplace. I'm going to be hanging them up. Pretty excited about that.
Nice.
But no, like I say, new things. So beaver for sure. And Jared and I are in the midst of planning for our hunts for 2022.
Yep.
I'm about to buy plane tickets tonight, Jared.
Are you?
Yeah, Alaska.
That's
The year of Alaska.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's
Caribou.
awesome.
I'm doing the Hall Road, the Dalton Highway. You've met Joe Griffin before. We met at my house. And I've been talking to him a bunch about doing this. And so when I'm taking my wife and my 9-year-old, we're gonna fly into Anchorage, tour around, like there's fjords and stuff you can see. And for a couple days, and then we're gonna do about a week, drive the Dalton Highway, sleep in the tundra, and hunt caribou in the bow zone for a week. So I'm hoping that I got to start working on my long shots, but I'm hoping I add caribou to the list because that would be pretty sweet.
Nice.
I'm trying to push Jared to do some elk.
I tried, man. I tried Josh Ilderton and Josh from the Untamed. We tried getting into Idaho. Idaho's got a pretty slick deal for. Probably shouldn't say this, but there's probably select few out there.
There's plenty of people that already know clearly about it.
Yeah, obviously.
Exactly.
We tried to get into that thing. I think I was in line at like 20,000 or something. So Idaho has a pretty slick deal for disabled veterans. If you're a certain disability rating, you
Which
get
that boy ain't right, Jared.
in state tag prices for elk. So I could have gotten elk tag, I think, for a total of $75 as opposed to $600-700.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they go quick. I mean, you got to be within the first 300 in line when they open it up in the year. Like I said, I was at like 20,000. They randomly select you. So unless you're in that first tier, it's pretty slim pickings by that time. So
do you have a backup plan, or what do you have?
I don't
What's
yet.
ruminating in that old head of yours?
It is only January. My mind is on winter festivities, ice fishing,
Coyote hunting.
and then we'll go into spring turkey, and then I'll probably have a plan a little bit farther.
Yeah. We're Nick, do you ever do any coyote hunting?
I have done more ice fishing than I have
Sure.
coyote hunting.
Okay.
I've done 2 hunts for coyotes, more or less us just sitting having a good time.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that's how that works. I do have a friend who he has gotten himself into kind of like that varmint control.
Yeah.
So he's got a wide season, and that actually he's contracted through a couple, I think, counties where he actually takes out coyotes, but he uses a thermal scope.
Those
and
are sweet.
He's got it hooked up so that he can take video.
Yeah.
So, I mean, 2 a.m., all of a sudden my phone buzzes, and I happen to look, and it's like, oh, Johnny Boy's got something, and he sends us little videos of this, and it's like, holy smokes, like, what a shot.
Yeah.
So it is super cool. But no, I think I'm leaning more towards the ice fishing, just because after being in the woods by myself, like being able to chum it up with somebody on the lake, like that's just what I'm looking for. Also, my wife is like, no, you are not leaving the house without all the children. Go do something. Go have a good time. Yeah. And I tell you, being on a big frozen lake, granted, ice safety, and we go through the whole protocol, and it's got to be thick if I take all the kids out there. But at the same time, like, they're running around on the ice. You give them a scooper, and they're going to scoop everybody's hole, and then they're going to lose the scooper. But at the same time,
going to the bottom of the lake.
They got them for a good 20 minutes where you don't have to worry about them. But snacks in the pop-up and just, hanging out with guys, that is like one of those things that I'm so looking forward to this year.
We've been doing a lot more of that the lake funtivities.
Yep.
We did a lot of ice fishing. My daughter, my wife, been ice skating a lot. I got ice skates from Play It Again Sports, popped them on, walked out there, and I took like one skate and they crumbled underneath my feet. So I got to get myself another pair.
So you went ice fishing instead?
Yeah, I just kind of sat around with like those weird, the whole blade came off the bottom. So I was in these little booties, just basically walking around in skateless skates. So Well, hey, we're coming up on time, boys. We got recipes to try. We have resolutions to fulfill. Nick,
Yes.
don't blow it when it comes to writing. I'm gonna be checking in. Like, hey,
Please
Nick,
do. Please do.
what have you written lately? And you check in on the 6 foot journey that I'm on. I'm working on it. You know, I think
Can
if
I
I
live
believe and eat enough
vicariously
liver,
through you? I'm at
Yeah.
5'8". Like I
You're
feel like
5'8".
short guys need to unite on this. You know what? The bigger
call
you
me
are, the
short. I
harder
don't know
you
that
fall.
I would identify as short though, dude. I think well, personally I identify as 6'3".
Right. We do live in Dutch country though, so everybody's 6 foot and up.
I know.
Jared.
I know. I tell everybody I'm 5'10", and I'm with shoes on. I'm probably 5'10". Without shoes, I'm probably like 5'9 3/4". It's like a pretty sore subject.
Short.
You know,
I've accepted it. I am husky. I used to hate that term. Somebody said something that sturdy. That was the
Sturdy.
new term that I was
Sturdy.
like, you're sturdy. And I was like, I can live with that.
yeah, it's better. I'm not husky. I'm just short.
Nor
Nah, I'm
sturdy.
not short. Am I short? You know what? Like here's the thing. A lot of the guys we've had on, a lot of the guys in the hunting industry are pretty short. Like way shorter than you think. You'll see them in like the shows and stuff, and they're like these little fellers hopping off their high chairs to go accept some award. We went to some award show, and I remember watching, I forgot, was it the ATA show or something, Jerry? We watched like the film fest, and some dude won. I won't say his name because I do know it. I can't think of it right now, but he hops off his little high chair, like scoots up there, and I'm like, oh, you are
Someone
a
had to
small fella.
lower the mic down.
Yep.
Here you go, guy.
Oh man, I'm surprised he doesn't have one of those little fold-out stands. He just or like stools that just carries them.
Exact.
You know, steps on it.
There's a lot of that. A lot of little fellers. So I didn't feel too bad. But yeah, West Michigan among the Dutch blonde people, I'm brown haired and only 5'10", 5'9 3/4". Anyways, Nick, thank you for coming on, sharing your recipes. Everybody, write Nick. If you don't see any writings coming from Nick, just send him a message. Encourage him to continue writing.
DMs.
Do it.
Slide into his DMs.
Do it.
And yeah, thank you for listening, Nick. Thanks for coming on. We're gonna obviously keep having you on to just share new recipes. So we're gonna need you to keep experimenting.
Perfect. Yep. We'll keep experimenting, and yeah, I'll find. I haven't completely figured out liver, but we'll find something new this year that I'm gonna be like, you know what? Maybe it's trotters this year. Maybe we work on the hoof of the animal. We'll see what happens.
Ooh, I love it. All right, Huntavore, go check him out. Thanks, everybody.